Good morning. I noticed something and that's interesting to me happening, and I wanted to try to put it to words. I don't know how good I can do that. Okay. We'll say 6 or 7 years ago, a lot of people in the world had their life changed. And I think it wasn't them that did it, but they started to see something that nobody had really been seeing, at least not in our time. And it was that the earth we live on is not spinning, and it's not a sphere. That's not the reality that we experience in this world. And so the topic of flat earth became, I don't know if you call it trending or whatever you call it. Everybody, like almost every platform, like on YouTube or, news outlets and things like that, almost everybody's done a show or whatever, or interview or whatever about flat earth in the last 7 years. Like probably most of the popular YouTube channels that talk about that kind of stuff. I mean, obviously the topic, it has to be something that the channel would talk about. But I'm noticing something. Okay, if you watch my channel, you know what I believe is happening. I believe that Jesus is flying with the clouds of heaven, uttering his voice, and he is showing people in this world, not everybody, but he's showing just people in this world truth that they had never known, never understood, and he's making them bear witness to it. So he's showing them something, and then he's convicting them to forget about everything else, forsake everything else, and follow him. And when you're convicted about the truth, you have to tell people the truth. And I think that's a pretty established reality for people who see this truth. They understand what I'm talking about. You don't hide a light under a shade so that no one can see it. You put the light up like at the top of a hill so it can light up things. And that's why I feel like this is. But there's an interesting aspect of flat earth, and I'll use myself for an example. I had something removed from my eyes. Something, some people would say I had scales taken off my eyes or removed from my eyes. I had a veil removed from my vision or whatever. And to me, the way I understand that, it's the exact same thing with less physicality to it that Jesus did. He did this. He showed us this. He made us bear witness to this. And the world doesn't want to believe it or whatever. But something has to be preached for people to know about it, right? Something has to be said, or information has to be given in order for people to know something. If they never heard it, they won't ever know it, or even be able to make a choice on it. So they have to hear it. So it seems like that's the way he does this, is he makes people in the world to know something. And what that is to me is the same thing he did when he saw the blind man and made some spittle or whatever and put mud on the guy's eyes, and then he told him to go wash in the pool. And when the blind man went to the pool and washed, Jesus had supernaturally made him able to see. And this man was born blind. This man was blind from birth. So he had never seen. He had never had eyes. Everyone knew that too. So this is a miracle that Jesus performed, and like the whole city knew about it because they knew the man and they knew his parents, but they didn't understand how he could see all of a sudden. And he said, Jesus did it. He told me to do this, I did it, and now I see. So a miracle's been done in the last 7 years. And I can say that that's my testimony. I've had a miracle happen, and I've had, however you want to say it, I've had scales removed from my eyes. I've had my blind eyes can now see something that was non-existent to me and couldn't have been comprehended by me previously. Now, there's a story in the Bible that most people are familiar with when Jesus was preaching or whatever, and there was a big group of people, and he took however many fish and bread or whatever, and he made it feed 5,000 people or 4,000 people. He did it a couple times, but the one time that he fed 5,000 or something like that, Jesus noticed something or said something that just rattles my thinking, just shakes me a little bit. I realized that Jesus did a miracle. He performed something supernatural to my mind, or whatever you want to call it. And I can see something crystal clear that I could never have seen before and never even knew was something to think about. And right now I'm realizing that that's a miracle, okay? I know that that's a miracle. And I think there's countless people that experienced this same thing that I did that would also tell you that they have experienced a miracle. But when Jesus had fed those 5,000, his disciples were there, and they saw it. And actually, they helped him pass out this food, and, you know, a certain way, they helped him perform a supernatural act. Now, they weren't doing the supernatural part. What I'm saying is they witnessed it. They were witnesses of a miracle, like an impossible miracle. How do you take 3 fish or however many fish and feed, you know, a small stadium worth of people? And I think the number of the 5,000, I think that was just men. I think there's actually women and children where the number wasn't counted, the women and children. I don't remember where I learned that, but so that might not be true, but I think that was the case. So there's probably more like 10,000, but so they went out on the boat, and I can't remember exactly how it came up, but I think Jesus said something about maybe he was talking about the bread of life, saying, I'm the bread of life. I don't remember, that might be a different, but he said to them, he asked them how many loaves were left or whatever after feeding the 5,000. Then he asked them about the 4,000. They told him the right answer. They told him this many baskets were left over. And he had just asked them a question that proved to them, because they witnessed it, proved to them that this was a miracle, because they started out with, you know, however many fish, and then they had baskets of leftovers. They had more leftovers than they actually had in the beginning of the fish. And so this should have been an obvious, you know, thing that the disciples would have known, that was a miracle performed. But they didn't comprehend it. They didn't actually understand that he had performed a miracle. And he actually said to them, how is it that you don't understand? So I'm wondering in my mind, was Jesus frustrated when people aren't, because this is a present tense thing as well as past, is Jesus performing a miracle today? And has he performed a miracle in your life? And has he healed blindness that you were overtaken by your whole life? And the last 6, 7, 5 years, you've overcome it? Because that's a miracle. And I sure hope that you can realize that it's a miracle, supernatural, and Jesus performed it. And if you haven't had that happen to you, I would hope that you take to heart what I'm saying has happened to me. And he's uttering his voice, and that's what Jesus does. He does miracles. So if you haven't had your blind eyes fixed and corrected and made to see, then ask him. Have a good day.